Delezio is one of Australia's most extraordinary survivors. In 2003, at just 2 years of age, a car crashed into her daycare centre, leaving her with life-threatening injuries, including third-degree burns to 85% of her body and the loss of multiple limbs. Well, just 3 years later, Sophie was involved in a second serious road accident, once again facing a long and complex recovery.
Since then, Sophie has inspired the nation. Everyone remembers her story with her resilience and strength, building a full and joyful life, marrying, welcoming her son Frankie in 2024. He's now 2, and now she's teaming up with the Sydney Children's Hospitals Network for a new podcast full of clear, really practical advice to help parents navigate everyday childhood health concerns. And it's our great pleasure to say that Sophie joins us in the studio today. Hello, Sophie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
With that story, it touched every single Australian. We remember it so clearly. And when we show those pictures, how do you reflect on that time in your life?
I think because I have no memory of it, it just seems like someone else's story in a way. This is the life I've always lived. This is the life I only know. So it's just some images from my childhood and I move on with my life.
Yeah, wow.
Now that your little boy, though, is 2, which is the same age that you were, do you sometimes look at him and go, wow, this was me. This is how old I was when this happened to me. Because sometimes that perspective is really interesting once you are a mum.
Definitely. And I actually feel that a lot when I go into the hospital to film my podcast and I see the parents and with their little kids and going through it. I think because my accidents were so nothing could have predicted it. They were completely incidental that I can disassociate from that for my son. But being in the hospital when I go to film the podcast and just seeing those parents and knowing what they're going through, it hits home.
We'll hear more about the podcast in a second, but firstly, tell us about Frankie. What's he like, up and about?
He is a cheeky little monkey. He is so fast. My gosh, he knows how to run like there's no tomorrow. He is the best little boy. He brings so much happiness to everyone around him. It's just the best.
Yeah, look at those pictures. Parenthood is full of surprises. Is there a fun moment that has stood out to you where you've just gone, wow, this is, I've signed up for this?
Yeah. Honestly, last night he slept in his first big boy bed.
Only last night?
I know, only last night.
Big.
So it's like a big floor mattress, like a floor bed on the floor, Montessori style. And his face when he saw it was just like, it was Christmas Day. And it was just, he was so excited, just running around, jumping on it. And he kept to say like, Baba? And like, it's Baba's bed. And it's like, I think that was just so funny to see.
That's a milestone.
Someone's so excited for bed.
Yeah, they get so excited and then you're like, oh, but you're down there.
But not excited when he wants to go to bed.
When you look back on your own journey and what you've learnt from motherhood and maybe, what you learnt from your own parents as well, what has it taught you?
To enjoy the small things in life. Anything can change in a moment. You do not know what tomorrow has in store, so just count your lucky stars when you can and take every moment to be appreciative for the beauty of the world.
Philosophy.
So you've mentioned this podcast, right? So tell us about it, because you've actually teamed up with the hospital.
Yes.
Where that cared for you.
Yeah.
So that's a really nice moment to be able to give back like that. Tell us about the podcast and what it aims to do.
So it's a podcast for any parents, caregivers, grandparents who look after a child to any capacity. It is, I sit down with expert clinicians, all employees of the hospital, and talk about various topics to why your child might end up in the medical system, from bites and stings, cold and flus, vaccines, e-bike safety, transitioning from pre-K to K and 6 to 7 in school. There's so many different topics ranging from zero, your newborn baby, to your 18-year-old child. And we myth bust, we give you the trusted health advice from the professionals, and there's no grey area. It's all black and white information. It's clear, it's easy to understand for anyone.
And that's what's great too, because as a parent you get fed a bunch of stuff on social media. You're not quite sure which is the way to do things. So we're talking about advice from clinicians, some of the best in the world who care for our kids every day. So you're really getting it from the source. Did you learn something, or are you learning stuff from the podcast that you're then filtering back into Frankie's care?
Yes, so much. I mean, the first episode was about cold and flus, and Frankie, of course, has a cold right now. So
get used to that.
No, never ends. So there's so much information, and I think the myth-busting aspect was really helpful as well, just to be like, don't do this instead. And these guys work in the paediatric hospital system. This is their life. So they know this information more than anyone else I know. It's great.
Yeah. If little Sophie could see big Sophie today, what would she think of everything that you're doing?
Oh, she'd just be so happy.
Yeah?
She'd be so proud. And I think I never knew what to expect for my future, but pretty happy with how it's going.
I mean, all of Australia wishes you the most joyful life and motherhood and everything. Sophie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, it's lovely to see you. Well, Sophie Delezio's new podcast with the City Children's Hospital Network is called Kids Health Explained. It's out now. Get it where you get your podcasts.